We're back here to the Neil Haley Show on the Total Celebrity segment, and I'm excited to welcome the program David Lipper. We all know him from Full House, and now we're going to talk about Just Swipe. How are you, man? Thanks for stopping by. What's going on?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yeah, Just Swipe is coming out just in time for Valentine's Day, and probably the perfect Valentine's movie. We've been wondering, I think all of us in this pandemic, what is the positive we can take out of this thing? And that's a tough question to ask because we're so focused on everything that has happened to us, right? We have to wear masks. Things have changed. We can't relate to people the same way. We can't work the same way. We can't. But what can we do? What have we learned? What's interesting about Just Swipe is it really answers that question, and it does it from the point of view of a romantic comedy, in that maybe we have been going about this whole love thing the wrong way. We have become this society of empowered women,
Right.
right, along with empowered men
Right.
who think, hey, this is the way to go. I'll meet somebody online, we'll go to a bar, we'll have a few drinks, and we'll hit the sack when we get home. And
That's true.
and you see that in the beginning of the movie with Jodie, the way she was pre-pandemic. But we've lost something. We've lost this time of courting. We've lost this
Yes.
time of getting to know people. This friendship that builds before we get
Right.
intimate. And, guilty as charged, that is just the way we've evolved. And so maybe nature corrects itself sometimes and forces us to rethink the way we've been doing things. And so what this movie really takes a good look at is what happens when we are forced to change the way we've been dating. And because of the quarantine that we were under, these two people are forced to get to know each other online before they ever meet. And perhaps two people that never would have given each other a chance because of the stereotypes of the way we're supposed to look and the affluence we're supposed to have in order to be in a certain league to date. And so I'm hoping people watch this movie and take a good hard look at that and say, you know what? I'm going to get to know this person a little better because the way I've been doing it hasn't exactly worked out.
Yeah, so and that's a great point you're making is the fact that we as a society have chosen to forget that we're just going to go in this process that we can't trust anyone. Everybody's online, so a lot of it's online dating, never even getting to the physical dating, right? And then they just want to speed up the process instead of finding your soulmate. And that's and I think it goes to a level of I'm in my 40s, but in the 30s, that this dating's totally a different animal. And
Yeah.
so you feel this film kind of educates in a way to say, why have we become where we are? It sounds like to me, if you're giving a more of a philosophical view of this, right?
I mean, I'm a deep thinker. So for me, I
I
always
like I
go to
like
this
that. That's
place.
cool. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. Because I looked at my own dating history, and I say, well, really, what's it been like for me? Do I physically connect with somebody first and then get to know them? Or have I gotten to know them and then physically connected? And the answer seems to be, yeah, I guess I've jumped into the physical way too early before getting to really know the person. And then all of a sudden you're 6 months into the relationship and you're like, oh my God, she's crazy. And, had I gotten to know her a little first, I would have learned that. And the other thing is once you're involved on that level and you're intimate with someone, you start making excuses for the bad behavior, right? You start saying, well, maybe it was a one-time thing. Maybe it wasn't, maybe she was just stressed, or you start doing all that stuff because you're already so emotionally involved. Because when you're physically intimate with someone, it certainly does heighten all that. So I think there's a lesson to be learned here. And the way it used to be is there was a courting period and you would
Right.
take somebody out and you wouldn't jump into bed. You'd get to know that person and have an emotional and intellectual connection before you ever dreamed of getting intimate. And we've lost that. We've lost that completely. And so I think this kind of goes as a throwback to the old classic romantic comedies, the way they used to be.
When do you think it's happened? I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm 49, and I think I was that same way at 20. So,
Yeah.
I mean, physical quickly, and then not think about the next repercussions. So I guess you're looking at back to the courting days of the 50s, right?
Right.
And then
Yeah.
and I think because of the pandemic, because so many people are independent now and they have their independent careers and things like that, to fit somebody like yourself, you're as an actor, if you're dating somebody, a woman who's in the corporate world and life, maybe they have kids, you really have to slow things down to get to know them before you go to that next level. And that's challenging because we hate to be alone in life.
It very much so. I look at my parents, they're about to celebrate their 60th wedding anniversary, 60. And I said, Mom, what's the secret? She goes, I married my best friend.
See, but how do we
60
find that?
years, she married her best friend versus divorce everywhere I look from everyone who did it.
Everywhere? And the pandemic has caused it even more. But when
Yeah.
I'm saying best friend, how do you define that best friend in so many relationships that don't happen? How do you connect that, the opposites attract? Do you believe that? I can't believe we're really getting a philosophical talk, but that's
Well, I
perfect.
mean, let's go back to the film. You've got these two people where she sees him and goes, oh no, this is not the guy. This is not the guy I want to date. But he made her laugh. And there was an item that she had a little pet peeve about that all these other guys had gone on the wrong side of, that this guy said exactly the way she feels. And what she learned was this guy was very much like her, very connected to her on several levels. And then the more they talked, the more she wanted to talk. And the next thing you know, it's 5 a.m. and they haven't stopped talking all night. So I think you'll just know when you connect with somebody on this level where it's just that easy to keep talking to them because you're so connected in the way you see the world, the way you speak about the world. And you realize, my God, this is somebody I'm completely in sync with, versus you can physically be in sync with someone, but completely out of sync and everything else. And that's a strange paradox of us human beings, is that we can actually be that connected on one level and so disconnected on other levels. And I think we're connecting on the wrong level, because the really important one, sex is going to last, well, for guys like me, a few minutes, but for the rest of the world, maybe 20, 30 minutes, if you're a stallion, an hour, that's it, right? But you have the other 23 hours of the day
Right.
to be with this person. And is the most important thing the 1 hour or the other 23 hours? And so I think we've just had it backwards. And so I challenge everybody to look at this pandemic in a positive way and say, we already know what the negatives are. For God's sakes, we hear about it day in and day out from the news. Let's talk about positive change, lessons to be learned, and using that to have a better life going forward. That's all we can do at the end of the day.
No, and that's true. That's all we can do at the end of the day. And I mean, you're speaking to me now. You're speaking to me in many different ways. And I'm like, it's so true, because finding the best friend, and then finding that best friend that's going to stick with you and understand what makes you happy. Happiness is such an important thing that we don't talk about. We don't talk about happiness. We talk about money. We talk about, sex. We talk about, having a good time. But what about happiness? Is that person truly making you happy? Is that person somebody that when you're sick, you want to be with them? And we've lost that. We've lost that as a society, and I don't know why. And I think even during the pandemic, we've lost it more. And so,
agreed. And not everybody is a good person. Not everybody is a nice person. I happen to be both those things. I look for those things in other people, and like I said, I will start to make excuses for people if I haven't gotten into the relationship the right way. And then I realize, my God, who this person? I don't even know who this person is. And how did I get here? That's my favorite question. How did I get so involved with this one? How did I get into this
how is there
situation?
perfection in relationships? That's the question.
Well, there's no perfection.
There's no perfection.
There's no perfection. There's no but it doesn't mean you have to be with somebody who's mentally ill, who's dangerous, and not that I'm saying that's happened.
Well, I don't know, David. That's for another time.
But yeah, well, I mean, when I think about how I ended up with girlfriends in the past, it's like, yeah, a girl who I thought was stunningly beautiful. That was always like the first go-to, right? Somebody who was sexy, somebody who was beautiful, somebody who triggered feelings in me in that way. And then it was, oh, okay, let's build on that. And maybe you get lucky and you build on that and it turns into something phenomenal and you find out this is a great person all around. But I mean, look, I'm a single guy, so I only know one track record, which is it hasn't succeeded. So I'm going to take the lesson of this movie. And I have taken the lesson of this movie, to be
Mm.
quite honest. I have not been out there dating and picking up women and doing past behaviors from my 20s and 30s. And I'm waiting to meet somebody that I connect with on all levels, intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, before I even want to get close to physical. So this movie's had a profound effect just on me.
It's,
Never
and
mind anybody else. So screw the rest of you. I learned what I needed to learn.
so
Thank
the
you.
profound effect of that is so important, and to find that. But you said there's no perfection. I love hearing that as a single person. You
We're
saying that.
human beings.
Yeah,
We are
we're human beings.
imperfect.
Let's and we all change. We all evolve. And what are your hopes and dreams, David, at this point in life? Look at this. Where did we go? Well, we'll talk a little more about the movie, but I think it's the movie is going to have a profound effect if it had a profound effect on David. What are your hopes? You had, Full House, you're an actor, you did all these different things. People remember you from different times before. What are your hopes and dreams in your career as an entertainer, and where do you want to go?
Well, first off, it's been the most exciting period of my entire career. Obviously, being a new kid coming out to LA, getting a deal with Warner Brothers, having a couple of pilots that didn't go, and then they put me on Full House was a dream. I mean, that was the top show. It's still a massive show. It's funny. I get these cameo requests like once or twice a week for quite some time now, and it's
Yeah,
always
you've not done the cons yet, have you? Are
no.
those coming? Are those coming?
I don't know.
Yes, you need the right agent for that. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah. But on the cameos, I have only gotten requests for Viper from Full House. I have never had a request for anything to do with any of the 60 movies I've shot since, or any of the other TV shows I've started. It's always somebody was a Full House fan and wants to send a note to his wife, which is always weird. My wife had a crush on you 20 years ago, and can you send a cameo? It's like those kinds of things. I'm like, I've done a few things since the Full House, but yeah, it seems to always go back to that. So what a joy, when I got this script. And Elizabeth Blake Thomas, who had been my first AD on Deathlink, which is out now, which was the first film I directed. We had developed this relationship of working together, and she said, "I've got a great script. You're perfect for the lead. Would you star in this thing and produce it with me?" And I said, "Yeah, this is amazing."
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, Wendy Braff wrote the script, and Wendy is somebody I had gone to college with and had gone to theater camp with. So this was just very serendipitous
Okay.
how this all came about. And then she said, "Okay, who do you think should be the female lead?" And I said, "Jodie." I mean, it was literally that fast. I read the script and my brain just went, "Jodie."
Oh, that's great.
So I reached out to her. Obviously, I've known Jodie for a long time, and we also share the same manager, Rachel Rothman. So I said, "Rachel, let's make this happen." And she's like, "Jodie loves the script, so let's work it out." And we did. And the rest is history. And I can't imagine a better suited person to play this. Jodie is one of those super underrated comedic actresses. I mean, I say underrated. Obviously, she's had a massive career with Full House and Fuller House, but I don't think people have quite given her the critical recognition they should, because when you see this movie, you realize just how good she is at playing it honestly, and yet being very funny. And the strange thing is, the paradox is that the funniest people are truly the most honest actors.
Right.
It's not the ones you have the slapstick comedians that can do all kinds of funny faces and accents and things. But when somebody is that honest and true to the character, it just actually makes them funnier. So I give her all the credit in the world, and I'm just so happy that worked out. And it's a little strange because obviously I was the boyfriend of the older sister, Candace Cameron, who played DJ. And all of a sudden, I'm the love interest now of Jodie, the younger sister. But I think Full House fans will get a big kick out of this to see the two of us together.
Now, with everything coming in the news with Full House with Bob, what were your thoughts with the passing?
I mean, yes, it's been a difficult time, and we've all been inundated with questions about Bob and sound bites, and obviously Jodie and the guys who've been there for the 8 years, more so than me, who was just the last season. But I can tell you that Bob was a tremendous human being. He was just a good guy.
Yeah.
You know, I had a moment on the show where a personal matter had come up and I needed the day off, and the producers were like, no, you got to, you know, we used to tape with the Twin Boys on Thursdays,
Right.
and the live audience on Fridays. And I needed that Thursday off. And they're like, David, we have to tape you in that scene with the twins. And so I went to Bob and I said, Bob, here's my situation. Can you help me? And he said, David, you're not working Thursday. I'm going to take care of it. And he went straight to the producers and they said, you will not work him on Thursday and you will give him the day off. And they eventually did. So Bob really had my back. I certainly considered, it was strange because really the bulk of my scenes were with John Stamos because we were in the band together.
Right.
And of course with Candace Cameron. But somehow Bob and I truly became close. There was a whole period there we used to go out a lot together. And then
you can't tell me those stories.
You know, Bob, I never saw Bob that drunk or anything like that.
No,
Like,
I
he
wasn't
always
saying
had
that.
his
He's a good time.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we'd been to several. I'd been out at several clubs and tables and whatever. Bob was always so composed. So I have no. Unfortunately, I have no scoop for you on Bob.
But see, what I was saying in that way,
he's a
David,
bloody
is
good
I don't
guy.
want to tell about my days in pro wrestling when I was traveling and going out. And I'm sure you have stories as well, David.
Oh, believe me,
Yeah,
you know, it was
yeah.
Friday. We went out for dinner, and now it's Sunday. I'm in Vegas. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I had too many of those.
Yeah, so I don't want to start about those stories. Meaning, I'm just saying, Bob, that you have a good time as a comedian. All right, let's jump back. Not that at all for Bob. No, I just was wondering. You know, you see different sides of him.
Let's just say, you know, I'll just leave it with this one thing too, which is a lot of fans reached out to me, and it's important to say this because I heard it from a lot of them that they were grieving too, and they wanted it to be understood that they felt they had lost a father. And I never fully understood that until this happened, and I started getting these messages and felt the grief that people were sharing with me, saying that it felt like they lost their dad because they grew up with him as like a second dad. So you know, I've seen it firsthand, just in, like I said, the people who've reached out to me, the fans who've reached out. So just for the people out there listening who are grieving, I just know that I sympathize and empathize with you, and I understand how you feel. And you guys are all going through this just like we are.
Now let's talk about and I think you bounced this question. You talked about Just Swipe, how this is such a great opportunity for you, but what about, I said your goals, if you were going to meet somebody to date and they wanted to focus on your hopes and dreams the rest of your career, what would that be? That's what I'm asking. So is it going to be behind the camera or in front of the camera?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Okay, so great question. I mean, obviously, I am about to shoot my 8th movie now. I'm off to Mississippi tomorrow to shoot Hunt Club. This is going to be my 8th film since the pandemic started, and that is it's been an insanely torrid pace for me, and that's because I started producing. So somehow I segued into this second job of producing and directing. You know, I directed 2 films in the last 2 years, and I'm about to direct 2 more. So what does all that mean? I don't have a clear answer for you because I'm an actor always, and so I'm never going to stop acting. I'm obviously going to keep doing roles in these films. I'm just not going to be able to be the lead guy when I'm directing and fully producing like this because it's just too much work. So that's why on Hunt Club, I did not give myself the lead role. On Hunt Club, I actually hired a director on this one because, I can't do it all. And as much as I like to think I can, it is a lesson I've learned the hard way. So the answer is I have a lot of movies coming out. Wolf Mountain, the second feature I directed, is going to come out this year. I just finished it yesterday in time to leave tomorrow. And we have a bunch of other films. Painted Beauty's coming out. Underdogs Rising is coming out. My Favorite Girlfriend, the movie I produced, will be coming out. A lot of movies coming out in 2022, and I'm shooting 6 movies this year that'll probably be coming out in 2023. So
You gotta stay in touch, because if you're looking to promote those, I'm happy to help you in that and come on.
let's absolutely stay in touch, because
Yeah.
these things are going to keep coming out, and I want people to keep knowing about it.
Okay, so I love your energy. It's fun, and I don't know if you thought you'd get into philosophical. I'm a former educator, former professional wrestler, as I told you, entrepreneur. Just top 16 celebrity podcasts in the world. I am my show's ranked higher than Shaq and also Snooki. So
Higher than Snooki.
Yeah. So what?
The fact that we even have to say that.
Exactly. Why should we? And so in thinking
Well,
talking points.
I want to tell you something. I completely admire and respect that. And we have this stigma that you can only do one thing. You have to be a producer, or you have to be a director, or
The
you have to be an actor.
niche works for certain people. It sure as hell doesn't work for me.
Yeah, well, I don't like this in a box thing. So I do a few things, and I only do them if I do them well, and if I don't do them well, I get out of it.
So tell me what stuff you've done, David, since Full House, just for my own understanding, before I didn't go to the IMDb or Wikipedia on that. So tell me.
Okay, so let's just talk about what's come out recently. Even Reboot Camp. So proud of this movie. We won the Austin Film Festival. We won the New Jersey Garden State Film Festival. We won Maui. We won about 3 other festivals. Every festival we've been in. And we're 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. We're 4.5 stars on Amazon.
That's gonna be a great movie to watch. Anytime you're 88% Rotten Tomatoes, go figure.
Ed Begley Jr. It's a mockumentary. I play a French Canadian guru who talk like this, and I've got Jarul playing himself, Eric Roberts playing himself.
Oh my gosh, I've had Eric on my show. Eric's awesome. He's a great guy. I was so intimidated when I was ready to interview Eric Roberts because of his roles, but I interviewed him with
nicest guy.
Nicest guy in the world.
I've got to go way back. This is not our first film together. And this is the thing. I pick up the phone. I call these people. They're my friends. I called Ed. I called Eric. And I said, guys, I need a favor. Come by for a day. Come by for 2 days. And then Lindsay Shaw from Pretty Little Liars, Maya Stoyan, Eddie McClintock, one of my good friends, is great in this. So we put an all-star cast together. And the whole premise is that my wife had left me for a self-help guru. And so I decided to blow it open, and I'm going to shoot a documentary as playing a fake guru that people come to work with. And the problem is this thing takes off. All these celebrities start coming, and then I don't know how to stop it. And I start believing my own thing, which is probably how so many of these cults have started. Really good movie. Really funny. I hope people find that. It's on all the platforms. So that's out. Of course, Deathlink, I mentioned before, the horror film I directed with Jessica Belkin, Matt Wright.
Where's Deathlink available? Is that available?
Deathlink is on all platforms. Also iTunes, Amazon, Fandango, all those TVODs, as they call them, the transactional VODs. The Christmas film that I wrote and starred in is on the CBC streamer called Gem, and it's in Canada right now. It'll be airing this Christmas here in the US. It just made it in time for the Canadian run. And of course, Just Swipe. The reason we're here, what we're talking about now, it's coming out on Tuesday. It'll be on all platforms. And I really hope people run to see this movie. And one person I really need to also highlight from this film is Alec Mapa, who I think steals the show, who's hysterical is the best friend. And Alec is one of those guys who has been not only getting rave reviews from critics and fans, but other huge comedic actors. He starred in this pilot from the creator of Modern Family with Alec Baldwin and Kelsey Grammer, and he played the third roommate. It hasn't happened yet. Obviously, there's been some things that have happened in Alec Baldwin's life. And so this show is not going forward right now. But Alec Baldwin did say that Alec Mop is the funniest man he's ever worked with. And that's a guy who's won probably more comedy Emmys. Him and Kelsey Grammer combined have won more Emmys than anybody on the planet. So that is, that's the level of Alec Mapa. So I just wanted to highlight him because I think people are really going to have a good laugh with his character.
We could tell you're always moving as a director, especially if it's your own projects, and making sure you know how to promote, because you got to go and get funding for films, especially when they're independent films. And it's an exciting time. And I think you're doing your passion and loving your passion. I'm very impressed by you for sure. And it's been a fun conversation. So Just Swipe's available. When is it? Valentine's
Tuesday.
Day?
Coming out this Tuesday. Obviously, Valentine's Day is the big date that we hit in the story itself. It all kind of comes together on Valentine's Day, but it's being released. They always give it a few weeks before the holiday, so it's coming out this Tuesday on all the platforms. iTunes especially is a great place to go. Do a pre-buy there. You can get a discount probably on that. Amazon and all the major platforms.
Well, fabulous, great conversation. I cannot wait to continue to see the growth of your career as it continues to grow, and maybe you'll find the love of your life, especially if they believe in your passion, because it's going to be hard to date you, right? Because you're always on
Impossible. Set. I know. I believe me.
Always on set. You got to find somebody
that's and I'm always
cool
working
with that.
Yeah.
They hope maybe they'll be working on something with you. Who knows? That's where it's going to come. And you guys become this power couple that grows the movie industry. Who knows?
You're making a shidduch, as they say. You're gonna hook me up with somebody, my other half.
You never know. We're gonna have to hang out sometime, especially
I love it.
LA, and we'll hang out. I'm 6'10" legitimate too, so you'll have fun time coming out with me.
Not playing basketball with you.
Or pro wrestling. All right, so I appreciate you, man. Oh, that's good.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on, Neil.
All right, listening and watching the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. We're back to the Neil Haley Show here on the Caregiver Dave Celebrity segment. I'm excited to welcome to Caregiver Dave Nassaney. Dave, how are you, man? What's up?
I'm doing better. I had a little bout with Omicron, but I think I'm winning.
I hope you're winning. You stay safe, definitely. And it's just a process. Everyone's getting it. Trust me, the whole world will at one point raise they had COVID, and that it is what it is. And hopefully at one point in time, everyone will get it so many times that it won't be as dangerous as it is, because people stay safe, wear your mask, social distance as much as you can. I don't mind social distancing. I like this whole thing where I go from one call to the next, don't have to drive places. And
that's because you're antisocial, But
I guess I'm antisocial. Well, I just want to have my own studio, and that's it. All right, so I'm excited to welcome the program Bailey Littrell and Literal Littrell. And Bailey is the son of Brian of the Backstreet Boys. Bailey, thanks for stopping by. How are you, man?
Of course, I'm great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. And so the whole process of being a musician, how does that make you feel every day performing in front of people?
You know what? Now it's just become such a routine that it doesn't seem like out of the ordinary. I will say though, after COVID, stepping back, actually not being out there in front of a bunch of people, not having to socialize, you're like, wow, this is different. It's kind of a little bit of a shock. I have actually, enjoyed a little bit of the solitude, but I'm pretty ready to go back to normal at this point.
And it's interesting. And then we're going to find out how he got his form of music, because it's not definitely like his father's. But Dave, I'm going to go right to the first question. Because your dad was so famous, did you always want to be a musician, or you're going another direction right at the beginning? Or is this something that I want to be part of that rush of the crowd? Because I'm sure you got the opportunity to go to those and see him perform in front of thousands and thousands of people. It's a rush beyond belief. I was a former professional wrestler. I did most of the rush of 500 to 1,000 people. I did one WWE show where there were 17,000. I was looking out and I said, oh my God. But it's a rush that's not like nothing else, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's that is basically the driving force behind it all. Every kid has their dreams of being a professional athlete. Obviously, the Littrell boys were not big enough to do that. So we do music. But I think growing up, and seeing dad play those types of shows, I mean, they let me introduce him at 5 years old when we were playing those huge crowds. So it was like, that was my first taste of it. And I thought, oh, this is totally something I want to do one day. I remember right before one of their shows, I went in their dressing room, put on like whatever outfit dad was getting ready to wear. And I was like standing in front of their mirror. I'm like, Dad, can I be the sixth Backstreet Boy? And he's like, no. But he's like, one day you're going to get your shot if you want to do this. And I'm like, well, when is that? He's like, well, you're like 6 now. So I'm not sure. It's going to be a while.
Funny. So you're into country now, right?
I am. Yes. 4 years.
So your dad, I can't even remember what genre Backstreet Boys was, but as I recall, I don't think it was country, right?
It was a boy band.
No,
Boy
yeah.
band. And so when I say I'm a fan, Bailey, I mean, I was exposed to the music. Not saying I'm going to concerts, even though I should have, because it would have been a good place to meet interesting people. But
I remember seeing him on MTV and stuff, and it wasn't your traditional classic country. What kind of country? There's so many different kinds of country. Bailey, what kind of country are you doing?
Basically, the first record I came out with, 770 Country, was very country pop. A lot of those songs, I hadn't really been writing that much at the time. A lot of them came from a lot of my good friends over at Tree Vibes, which is Florida Georgia Line's publishing company. Great guys over there. That's how I met some of my closest friends I have now. But this second album that I'm working on, this is more really singer-songwriter country, and so far it's been 100% written by myself. So it definitely has a completely different feel to it. Every song really tells a story, and we've done full live band so far, so it definitely has a different feel. It's not as much of a country pop feel, but you've got a couple songs in there that are definitely gonna hit home in that genre, though.
Are you from Nashville?
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, actually.
Okay. So you're doing all of this from Atlanta.
So
yes,
what's happening in
Atlanta
country,
and that.
yeah.
But
What's even happened in country music since the first time, Dave, you and I were interviewing the newer country stars? There has been this tremendous transformation of what a country music star is. Even 3 years difference, 4 years. I've interviewed country stars for the last 8 years, and Dave and I from just anyone and anybody. But the big thing I saw on Explained, which I saw on Netflix, is specifically enough when we have seen an urban pop movement in country, it's changed the genre completely. It all started, and then do you think that's what kind of really attracted you to country music? Is that kind of change? And
I think yes, I think it definitely opened me up to thinking it was possible. I grew up listening to country music my whole life, just being from Georgia, spending time with my grandparents, and that's kind of what started it. But when it definitely became more mainstream and out there, kind of like, give it a try, I thought, I mean, why not? This would be amazing to just try to venture into. Now, country, as mainstream, as big as it is, it's still very small. So there's a tight group of people you have to get in with that have to really accept you. And then that's kind of your window. It's like trying to make it to the big leagues. You're like, man, I've been playing bars for 4 years. Like, when's that next big step? So it's definitely a different world. Like, I got to open up for the Backstreet Boys when I first started. We were playing a 43 show tour, playing 17,000 people a night. And that was like my first big tour. And then you come off of that and you do country tours and you're playing, bars, or you're doing smaller venues, and you're like, it was kind of like a mind screw. You're like, oh, wait, okay, now I'm in my own genre and I actually have to start from the bottom up. Like I have to do all this work. So that was a shock for a 16-year-old, like, uh-oh, like, what am I doing? And then you have to build up that courage to, to get where you want to be. I mean, like, I think after that, I gained a whole lot of confidence. It taught me so much, and it's been seriously just so much fun to be able to build my career and personally be able to sell out shows and watch those shows and venues grow, and I mean, one day if I ever can make it close to arenas, I mean, that's just going to be the best accomplishment, just after seeing my dad. I mean, I can't tell you, there is no golden standard. I mean, what he's been able to achieve, it's very, very, very hard to chase. So all I'm going to say is, I can hope I just see a glimpse of that.
Yeah. I'm sure your father is very proud of your accomplishments and is very supportive. Does he give you advice, and do you listen to him?
Yes, yes. He,
Yes and yes.
yes, both. Yes. He, the best advice he's pretty much ever given me is just, well, two things is owning the stage. I mean, that's the one big thing is comfortability on stage. If you do not have it, then I mean, you don't really have anywhere to go from there. It's just you have to bring the crowd basically up on stage with you, make them feel like you're singing to every single one of them and interacting. Because if you don't have that, if you don't catch the crowd, then then they're out of it, you're out of it. It's just kind of, it doesn't feel like you're being able to relate to anyone. Second is just, I mean, this sounds basic, but it's just being yourself, doing what you want to do, having the heart to do it. That's all that matters. If you don't have the heart to do it, then do something else. And you have to have that investment.
And you talk about the humble of playing in front of 100 people after you played in front of 17,000. That's
Yes.
going to be crazy. I mean, I've done the same thing where one night I'll wrestle in front, when I was a pro wrestler, eons ago, it was 30, 40 people. One night, next night's 2,000. You still got to bring it every night. And what do you say for people that say, I don't want to play in front of small crowds? I don't want to play in front. I only want big crowds, or I'm not going. What would you say to them, especially with what you've done?
Well, I'm gonna have to say this is not a reality. Like, it is not a reality whatsoever. I mean, you have to go, and build your way. I mean, there's some artists, and it's a very sliver, of country music or pop or whatever genre, that sometimes, right out the gate get that big tour where they get to open for a big act or whatever, and then they get kind of spit out into the real world of, okay, now you have to go actually sell shows. You're not an opener. You have to build your audience. You have to build your fan base. That is very tough. It's a mind screw. And it's like, I just got this huge taste of what this is, and now I have to go do it myself. Like, if you can't mentally do that, then do something else. Like, it's just the matter of you. I mean, you got to be strong. You got to be strong-willed, strong-minded, but you have to stay humble. And if there's not a grateful bone in your body for the people that showed up for you, if that's 5, if that's 100, if that's 200, 400, arenas, then you got to do something else. I think I've learned, especially from my parents, it's just, be grateful for everything you have. When I would be frustrated, like, man, I can't sell at a place bigger than this yet. And then finally, you'd get there, but it was like, look at the people in the crowd. Look at these people that have flown in from New York, from South America, from Canada. I mean, these people are from right down the road, or they've come from all over the country just to pack this tiny little bar to watch you play. Like, if you can't see that and be grateful, then that's tough. You got to rethink what you're doing.
You definitely have to. That's a great point. Rethink what you're doing. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. So your dad is as hot as ever. Backstreet Boys, they're booking tickets on concerts and filling up auditoriums, stadiums. I don't know, and they still look young. It's not like the Beach Boys. A bunch of old 70-year-old rockers. Are still doing the things, which these guys will probably keep doing it when they're 70. And that makes you feel really old when all of your peers are old men, and then you look in the mirror and you say, "Oh my God, I'm an old man too."
I'm telling you, they've all had their moments where they're like, "Oh my God, we're getting old," and I'm like,
And
"You
you're
guys
the
are
one.
still."
You're the one probably that says they're getting old, right? You rip
Yeah,
it
I'm
all
like,
the time.
you know what, guys, you look good. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, I can't guarantee that one of you aren't going to tear your ACL if you hit that one mark on stage or whatever. But listen, I mean, for instance, my dad just had knee surgery. We've been playing basketball, and we play basketball once a week. Dad just had knee surgery. He's fully recovered. I said, all right, old man, you got to get out there and hit your marks. I mean, it's time. So, and they're still dancing. I mean, like better than I'll ever be able to dance. That's one thing. I don't understand how they do it. The energy they still have. I mean, they get back into shape with the snap of a finger and they're rolling. I don't get it.
And the energy level of what they have to perform in a concert.
Yes.
You don't have to do all that dancing, right? So
No,
are
I
you
just
a
get to
dancer?
clutch my guitar and yeah, I get to sit there and play. Like that's the beauty of it. I've got 2 shows coming up. This record coming out. I've got a single February 22nd, right? That single is the song I wrote. Basically 90% of it's acoustic guitar. I just get to sit up there and basically play this guitar and have a band. And I'm like, man, I don't have to break a sweat. This is pretty good. That's enough. This is a good thing to be thankful about. I don't have to work out for 2 hours. I get to just sit there and play.
So
true.
other than your dad and the Backstreet Boys, who inspired you, and who was like your mentor, and who are you trying to emulate? I know you're trying to be yourself, but that all had to come from somewhere, didn't it?
I think it's come from a cluster of artists. I gotta say, John Mayer was like the first person that really inspired me. John Mayer's music, I think, is something completely just out of the ordinary that doesn't come along. He's a generational artist, and his music is so creative and different. That's what I love about it. And the man's able to do any genre he wants and be successful at it. So I definitely look up to him as a writer and as an artist. I love a guy named Michael Martin Murphey that used to do country music years ago, back in the 70s and the 80s. Obviously Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard. I look up to a lot of old country greats, and John Mayer is the more modern influence that I think ties into all that. But those are just a few. I mean, I grew up listening to Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. Obviously, they don't really resonate with
I like
the music
that.
I'm
There you
making,
go.
but
I like your history. Who got you into that? There you go.
Well, my mom, first off, loved Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, right? Those were kind of our 2. I called that our California playlist. So I grew up kind of back and forth. We had a place in LA. And so we would, if we were ever cleaning the house or spending the day outside, we had our, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett playing. And I'd be back home in Georgia. My grandparents would be, take me on a road trip somewhere. And we had, Patsy Cline, Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash, Tammy Wynette. So I got, both sides of it. I got history and country, and then I got to hear all the old, vocal pop greats. I mean, I love me some Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad that you have come to appreciate classic country, because a lot of today's country people don't.
It's very true. That's the thing. I mean, yes, it has evolved, and I mean, everything's going to evolve and change. Unfortunately, I mean, if we like it or not, but the big difference is, I mean, there's a lot of great changes that have been made to country, but also at the same time, I feel like we lose our roots, and that's what hurts. It's just like I'm trying to find that balance of keeping it classic, but yet giving it a new age sound, and that's tough. But I'm trying to preserve the old and keep the new. But it's like,
good for you.
A group called Midland, if you've heard of them, they're a trio in country right now. They've been super successful. I love those guys. They're super down to earth, super sweet. I went to go see them at the Roxy 2 months ago down here in Atlanta, and they are classic as country can get. I mean, 70s, 80s inspired, and one of their hugest inspirations, also one of mine, is the Eagles. So they tie in a lot of the Eagles to what they do. So it has this fantastic sound to it. And they're one of a kind, and they're really successful right now. And everyone's like, oh, this new stuff's so cool. I'm like, new? Like, go listen to 70s, 80s country and come back to me and tell me if Midland's new. Like, I'm telling you, their music is so classic, and I love it.
So where do you think your music goes, and where do you want your music to go? What kind of, where do you want to be, the type of style music compared to what artists do you think you're kind of like? right now?
A lot of people that have listened to this record so far, which is kind of funny, have compared it to John Mayer's Continuum album. It's very like, big band. I've got 2 songs in there that kind of lean like R&B. It's just a very cool vibe. We've got some songs that kind of sound a little bit funky. I mean, we've got, heavy guitars in there, big live band. It's a super cool vibe. It still leans, more people have said it's kind of folk more than anything. And I do like that. It's very singer-songwriter, very folk. It's not, I'm still going for country, but it is very out of the box. But I'm still trying to hit it home there. There's going to be some songs, because I'm not finished with this record yet. But there's still going to be some songs on there that are, yet to be done that are going to be more country. And that's what I'm excited for. You're going to hear some steel and acoustic guitars, and I'm ready for that. But yeah, I've got this single coming out February 22nd. Gone's the first one off the record, and it's available for pre-order today. And then we're still working on finishing up this upcoming album. So I'm pretty excited.
So tell me about the single that's coming
So
out.
Gone I wrote almost 2 years ago now, which is crazy. Absolutely love that song. Definitely a storyteller song. So the response I've gotten from it it's been very great within the family. I let the family hear everything and tell me what they think. It's super dear to my heart, and I hope people will enjoy it. It's very singer-songwriter, but it's it really just tells the story of classic heartbreak, learning lessons, and I think people are going to enjoy it. We get to showcase this sucker actually live as a single for the first time March 22nd in Nashville. We're going to do like a showcase at Jason Aldean's bar, I think, downtown on Broadway. And then March 19th in Woodstock, actually like 20 minutes away from my hometown, we're going to do a show at a place called Mad Life. So that's those 2 places 2 days apart are going to be, that showcasing of the song. A lot of new stuff from the record is going to get played, which is great. And it's basically, how we've kind of planned it is it's like a listening party live, for the fans, so that everybody can hear it and get that first taste of it. So I'm excited.
It seems like really exciting times for sure. Like hearing what's happening. Where are you performing? Places you're going to perform. So people that, again, we're nationally syndicated all over the world and all the different places. Where are you going to be playing?
So yes, the Mad Life is the first one. That's the 19th of March. So that's going to be our first show. That's in Woodstock, Georgia.
Woodstock.
And then, that second one, the 22nd show, we're trying to we're really trying to get a date down. So I think it's going to be the 22nd. That's the Jason Aldean's downtown Broadway in Nashville. So that's going to be a blast. I'm going to try to get some other artists with me for that one, just to some local, Georgia guys to come in, rep our state in Nashville. So I think we're going to do that. It's going to be a blast, but I'm trying to think other upcoming shows. We're going to have some this summer, and we're just going to, take it slow, but figure out, the best markets and places to go. So probably a lot more in Georgia and probably some more in Nashville.
All right. So last thing is Dave has a caregiving question. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, my wife needed a caregiver one day after 25 years of marriage, and she suffered a stroke, lost her speech, became paralyzed. And I was only 42 at the time, pretty young to have anything like that happening. And I'm sure caregiving has rarely entered into your mind because you're so young, but everybody's got grandparents. Have you had any situations where somebody who is taking care of another one, a caregiver?
Oh, of course. Just recently, actually, my grandma's been going through some health struggles, and it's been really hard. We've been kind of taking care of her around the clock. She had a heart attack. She actually had 2 heart attacks.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And things kind of went, downhill from there. She was in congestive heart failure. So, at one point we had her wearing that vest that will shock you if your heart stops. She's got a a pick line. She's got to wear that little bag around her shoulder like every day, and we have to change her Melreno, and it's been quite a lot. I think I've learned so much just from that, and I mean, I can't imagine, what you just said, what you went through, because it's completely a life-changing thing. Taking care of somebody and having to put yourself aside, and give basically that person everything you've got. I mean, my mom's been taking care of her, and my mom's two sisters, I mean, basically around the clock. And my mom's tired. It's been a whole lot, but when you love that person, I mean, it comes a lot easier.
Yeah, well, that's my mission.
And
I help caregivers to stay alive, because 30% of them die before their loved ones do from the stress. So I
yeah,
came up with caregiverdave.com. It's a support group that will help them to put their oxygen mask on first, put their needs first, because if they go down, you're both going down, just like the analogy on the airplane. So make sure you turn your mother on to, and her sisters on to caregiverdave.com, because we want them all around here for a long time.
Exactly.
well,
And
thank you
Bailey,
so much.
and where can we find your website for best place to find info on your work? Where can you go there?
Okay, so Instagram's still #1 best spot. So that's Bailey Bailey Littrell _music.
Okay.
The website is baileyLittrell.com.
Okay.
You can find, I've got to update some stuff on there, but mostly you can find some stuff. But Instagram, I would say, is the hot spot to go to find any new info on songs and stuff right now.
All right. Well, fantastic. Best of luck. Continued success. I know you're going to have a great career, and appreciate you telling stories, and continue to rock it. So I appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you. You guys are great.
All right. Take
Thank
care.
you.
All right. That was the
Bye-bye.
Caregiver Dave celebrity segment, guys. Take care.
We're back to Neil Haley Show here on the Total Celebrity segment. I'm excited to welcome from NBC's American Auto, Anna Gasteyer. Anna, thanks for stopping by. How are you?
It's great to be here.
All right, so let's kind of jump into the show, and specifically enough the new time slot, but I want to go more into the premise of the show and your role in the show. And then I want to talk about being the CEO. I'll ask some CEO questions in preparation for being that CEO. Okay?
Very fancy.
Okay.
Sorry, did you ask a question?
Yeah, I asked a question. I said, tell about being a CEO, and tell me a little bit about being the CEO and stuff. So first, about the premise of the show. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so the premise of the show, American Auto, it's set in the American automotive workplace. It's a major American car corporation, maybe in a little bit of a floundering phase, and they bring in a new fancy CEO to spiff things up. That's why I play Catherine Hastings, and she comes from extensive CEO background, but not from automotive or mechanical background. She comes from pharmaceuticals. So brings a little bit of her pharma swagger to the car industry. It's not always a great fit.
Yeah, and that's the key thing, is that you go from one industry to the other. It's a big learning curve, and
Big learning curve.
Your character didn't like that learning curve, did they? That learning curve.
I wouldn't say that she doesn't like it. I don't think she cares that much. She's more interested in running the company and maintaining her own stock options. And so she needs about 5 years to get there. But as far as like picking up the details, not that interested.
Not that interested. And that's important as a CEO to be able to pick up those interests, because you have to understand how that run that company. So her success before, was it more on hard work, or was it more on just basically having experience? What would you say her role before when she was a pharmaceutical to go into this role?
I mean, I think she was probably really good at running a company, and at managing human beings, but not necessarily worrying about her product.
Yes. So the cool thing about American Autos, think about the American auto industry. What did you learn in this process of being on the show about the American auto industry and stuff that you did not know before?
Well, again, I mean, I learned or continue to learn that these are just massive cruise ships, with enormous impact, and there are a million fires to put out all the time. The premise of a workplace comedy is that the value system of the company isn't always allied with the value system of the individuals working there. And so that's what the premise of American Auto is. How do you keep the company's bottom line in mind at the same time as covering your own ass and maybe making sure that your personal needs are being met and or value system is being represented. And that's that's really, it's a very 2021 show. I think it kind of asks a lot of questions of how corporate America is trying to contend with a changing American culture and kind of how Americans are pretty bad at being good. I think that's really what the show is about. I think it's about trying to do the right thing, but at the same time cover your own ass.
And keep employees happy, right? Even though this is a comedy,
Yeah.
keeping employees happy, because the Great Reset has really changed the work mindset of people staying in a specific job for a long period of time or not working at all and going on and working for themselves. So we're really seeing an interesting thing. So people that are workers, just like everyone loves Superstore, and we know there's the creator of Superstore, that they can really equate and think about and really look at themselves as a worker and say, oh my gosh, I got to laugh for this half-hour episode and really kind of understand the work ethic and say, I too do this every day. And I too have these conversations. And it's interesting to see what the CEO really thinks. So you're taking the comedy end of of basically being undercover boss and figuring all that out. And you figure out in the auto industry, it's not the same thing. The way you program things, the way you create systems, you really need your cast of leaders in your boardroom to really figure things out. So you take it from the boardroom and also inside, seeing the workers' stance of it too, correct? In this comedy?
Yeah, it's exactly as you just said. It goes there's a lot of people to keep happy. There's your shareholders, your boardroom, and then there's your factory floor, and then there's your design elements. There's supply chain issues. There's advertising and marketing concerns. I mean, the show definitely circles all of those issues at the same time as staying within the realm of just good old fashioned, like I said, people who aren't all that much like one another, trying to communicate and get through their workday.
Exactly. And that's the challenge, because we're going to work every day with dealing with a pandemic, dealing with different issues at home, and all these things go into place. And it's not hard it's hard to work. It's hard to work a job, especially if it's monotonous every day. At least your job as CEO or as an actor in real life is a fun job. The other jobs, we really have to thank these people that are out there, our frontline workers, and putting that effort in every day with the challenges that they have to meet. And that's a great way that the show honors that in so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice to see that.
Yeah, I definitely do see that, Anna. And then the other thing I wanted to touch base before I let you go is specifically how many moving parts there are for a CEO. It's amazing to see, right? From what you've learned, and see that how they have to do so many different things to keep things running at the optimal level. It really gives you an understanding of what CEOs do every day.
I mean, who knows? I think it's kind of it's like my husband says, all good CEOs basically have ADD. They're really good at like moving quickly and not drilling too deep. My husband works in marketing. There's a speed to which they're making decisions, and then they're done. They don't spend, and I kind of admire it in a way, because I like to drill down and know about things. And Catherine certainly can't. She doesn't have time. She's too busy. Again, it's not really a study of CEOs or the American workplace so specifically, but it is all television. Fun television is a reflection of, like you said, these kind of moral conflicts that we're facing.
Exactly.
In real time.
And you make it funny. That's the important thing. And everyone in the cast makes it funny. So everyone needs to tune in. New time slot again tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I appreciate you coming by, Anna, and best of luck.
My pleasure.
Show. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. Enjoy.
You too. All right. Bye-bye. You're listening and watching The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.